Hi, everyone. Welcome to Hanratty's Huddle. I'm Rob Adams with Terry Hanratty. And Terry, we are loaded with things to talk about. Here's my first question for you, my friend. Are you capable of getting some reps? Can you still play for the Steelers because they need a quarterback?
I think for what they pay now, I may take a rep. Just one. In fact, today's one rep makes a damn fortune. So why go out there for more than that?
I
But
agree.
I've never seen in my life any such chess moves with all starting quarterbacks. I mean, it's crazy how these guys are just keep shifting around. So
So
I don't
since,
know.
go ahead.
No, I don't know what's going to happen. But I think with the Steelers, and they may be end up in the worst spot.
And that's what I started to say. Since we last spoke to you, Justin Fields is now a New York Jet. Aaron Rodgers is still hovering around in the ether, walking on the beach or something. Russell Wilson's taking a visit with the Browns, may go to the Giants. And Kenny Pickett is now a Cleveland Brown. And the Pittsburgh Steelers, the team that we tend to talk about quite a bit here, do not have a starting quarterback. They don't really have a backup quarterback at this point. Is it going to be Kirk Cousins? Is it going to be Aaron Rodgers? Is it going to be Mason Rudolph's name has come back up? No matter what. And I'm not one to jump on the bandwagon of firing people or making changes for change's sake. I'm a Tomlin guy, but you go all the way back to the last years of Ben Roethlisberger's career. They have botched the quarterback situation terribly.
Yeah, they just haven't given any patience. Mason Rudolph, I saw him in college, I thought he was really good.
Hmm.
And he got a bad start through Roethlisberger. Ben didn't want him drafted because he felt that they should have filled some other position with a high draft choice because he still had one or two or how many more years left to play. And that was bad. And he never really, I think, never really took Rudolph under his wing when he was a teammate of his with the Steelers. So I think Rudolph got a real bad rap in Pittsburgh. And I think he's done well with Tennessee, given the opportunities. And he should have been the guy that was going to be at least given the opportunity to show what he could do. But that didn't happen. But now you end up with the Steelers. Here we are in the middle of March.
Hmm.
They don't have. I don't even know if they have anybody on the roster. I think they picked up somebody to be a training camp quarterback, but they don't have any right now. It looks like to me, anyways. Aaron Rodgers is the man. He has to be a 1 year deal. And I don't know. Is he in some dark room somewhere thinking and contemplating life now? I don't know.
I saw a
But he
picture of
sort,
him on the beach.
yeah, he sort of waits and sort of waits everybody. I think he loves the drama. Listen,
Oh, he
he's the
does.
quarterback. He's one of the quarterbacks that I've said many years ago that I would pay to watch. I think he is that good, and I think he has more in that arm. Because I saw him with the Jets here, and it goes back to what I've been preaching for years and years and years. If you don't have an offensive line, I don't care who your quarterback is. You don't have a quarterback. So I think what's happened with Pittsburgh is that Fields probably jumped out because they weren't going to protect him. I don't know whether the Jets could protect him any better, but I think Rodgers should be the guy there because he's a stopgap. You
Yeah.
can't. There's no Fields. I thought got another raw deal. I thought he should have been more with the Steelers. I think what he did at the beginning of last year really gave him the opportunity to at least a 1 year contract like he's getting with the Jets for 2 years, 1 or 2 years. It's not going to be any exorbitant thing like you see with Deshaun Watson. But no, Fields should be there. He should have been given the opportunity to be the number one quarterback. But
And
why they let him go, I don't know. I mean, both teams, Jets and the Steelers, are in flux right now. I mean,
yeah.
they don't know which way to go.
And
So
Skylar Thompson, by the way, is the only Steeler quarterback in the room right now. The former
and we all
Dolphin.
know Skyler.
Yeah.
So but it's just Wilson showed you what he could do, and I think he's probably looking for more money than Rodgers because Rodgers is he's 42 years old, so you can't give him too long a deal. But you have to look to the draft. I mean, you got to plug him in a year. This is not a great year for quarterbacks coming out of
No,
college.
it's not.
So, I think that, they're in a really difficult position right now. And Fields would have been the guy that he's mobile. He's got a big arm. He had a bad rap in Chicago because he threw too many interceptions.
Yeah,
He got to Pittsburgh and they cleaned him up. He didn't throw many picks at all. And he used his legs to advance the ball a lot. And he showed accuracy throwing the ball and good choices in throwing the ball.
I
That's the
agree.
big thing.
I agree.
And so I don't know why they let him go. I really don't. I thought he was going to be the quarterback. I thought they couldn't keep both. You can't have two starting quarterbacks. First of all, nowadays you can't afford two starting quarterbacks. So you got to get rid of Wilson and put Fields in there. Then you go from there. If it doesn't work in 1 or 2 years, then you go to the draft. Next year's supposedly a very strong year for quarterbacks coming out of college, like we had last year. So we shall see.
I'm fine with look, you want to sign Rodgers for 2 years and draft somebody next year, give him a year to develop under Rodgers. And Rodgers isn't going to tutor anyone either. Let's be honest. He's
No,
not going to do that. Quarterbacks have egos. Whether it was Ben, whether it's Rodgers, whether it was Joe Montana, he was terrible with Steve Young.
yeah,
That was a frosty relationship at best. So I would be okay with 1 year with an option for Rodgers or something like that to get a quarterback in 26, because unless there's a gem in this 25 draft, you're not drafting a quarterback.
and the thing is, they have to get the offensive line settled.
Oh, for sure.
And if you look at the draft coming up this year, there's some really good tackles in coming out of college. Now everybody says, well, you don't know if the tackle's good. If he's not good enough to play tackle, you put him at guard.
Right.
That's what you have a big, strong kid who doesn't have to have the movement that the offensive tackle has. So you shift him in, but you can't get enough of these guys on your roster because you go through them, and I once told the late great Dan Rooney, who was the owner before, right after his father died. I told him one time I was back in the Steelers, we were watching practice, and I said, if anybody had nerve, they'd go into the draft. And they take, unless you have a definite quarterback who's going to lead your team to victories, to the Super Bowls, that you would go pick the first four guys, all offensive linemen. He looked at me like I was crazy. I said, if I have the ball, you can't score. And you got to protect your quarterback. And there's not a quarterback or a running back alive who's had a great year who hasn't had a great offensive line. It just doesn't work. They start there. And the other problem with Steelers have, which I think is the second thing to do, you got to solidify the defensive line.
Yeah.
And that we got to go through the draft and do that because they're just not, people are not giving up good defensive linemen. They're not trading away defensive linemen. So you got to get into the draft. So I think, the Steelers got to sign Rodgers, keep for that stopgap. I don't know, pick up somebody as a backup, and then solidify the offensive defensive line. I mean, that's how you win football games.
And you don't bring DK Metcalf here or to Pittsburgh rather, if you're not going to give him a quarterback.
Well,
you got to have it.
That's the key. That's why I thought it was a definite that Rodgers was coming, because
Me
when
too.
they signed Metcalf and they go, oh, he's got Pickens there, and so I thought, they would have good tight ends. You got three really good options for the quarterback.
And Darnold's not coming here. He signed a deal. Geno Smith got traded. I mean, there's all kinds of things going on in the quarterback world.
Oh, I mean, and it's not going to stop. That carousel. I mean, you got Kirk Cousins. They say they're not happy with him,
right?
And so they're probably looking to get rid of that. Another huge contract. How they keep giving these guys, 150, $250 million contracts when they're 35, 38 years old is beyond me. And with Deshaun Watson there with Cleveland, I mean, how could you possibly? That was the worst trade ever. It was the worst deal struck by an owner or franchise. I thought Herschel Walker was bad way back in the day. But this thing, when you give up $250 million, you give up 3 first-round draft choices, couples third round, a fourth round. I mean, who could possibly do that? They had to be choking down in Houston saying, are they really willing to do that? We just kept throwing out draft choices. They kept saying, no problem, go for it. It boggles
And
my mind how someone could. That shows you right
yeah,
there how overpaid owners are in the NFL. Because
terrible.
when you can throw that kind of money around, that's an absolute sin.
Yeah, yeah. And I don't get the feeling
Because
Watson will
he
play
knew.
again.
Well, Watson, they knew he was going to have to sit out a year because that was his
Yeah,
suspension from his off the field activities. And you still want to. And any football player who steps away from the game for a year, it's really touch and go whether they're going to ever get that mojo back
right. I agree.
because it's all feel and it's all very sensitive. So it's very difficult to do that. And to give him $250 million to take that gamble, wow, that was a shock. That was
Yeah.
a shock. Plus, all those draft choices were just. I mean, I can't stop talking about that because it was such a ridiculous. It's one of those things you make in fantasy football,
Yeah.
just for the hell of it.
Yeah.
But no, this is real life.
Closer to our region, what are the Giants going to do? Are they going to bring in Wilson? Will they bring in Rodgers? Who's coming to the Giants? Who
I
would
heard
want to
Phil.
come to the Giants?
I heard Phil Sims.
Scott Bruner, let's bring him back.
I love the Giants organization. I love the Mara family because they're the same family as the Rooney family, all
Yes.
intermixed, and they're wonderful people. I know them personally. But man, they just can't get this thing right either. This quarterback thing. I think they're going to end up with Russell Wilson. To be honest with you,
Hmm.
I think the Steelers are going to end up with Rodgers. The Giants will end up with Russell Wilson, and they're both going to desperately look for a young quarterback in the draft. I mean, it's I don't see any other good solution for anybody. Again, you got to have the offensive line to get a quarterback.
I agree. And if Kenny Pickett is your starting quarterback in Cleveland, oh, get ready. It's going to be bloody. We're playing the Steelers twice a year. That will not be pretty.
Well, that's the bad part about that is that Cleveland has a pretty good team.
Yeah, they do. They do.
Their offensive defense, their offensive, is pretty damn good. They got a good running game. They got a good offensive line
Good defense.
and a good defense.
And their
And
big guy just got re-signed. So yeah,
yeah, I mean, it's why they shouldn't be better is amazing. But again, it all starts from the top.
it does. And look, you got to have health. You have to have a certain level of good fortune, but it does start at the top. It really does. Hey,
I just,
while we're talking about throwing money around, I don't know if we touched on this, but what about Josh Allen getting a huge deal?
uh, I think that'll work.
Yeah,
So it's you know, these things are so easy to second guess at the end. But I think everything's going to be fine.
Josh Allen is Buffalo, and he's basically you could rename that stadium that they're building Josh Allen Stadium. I mean, he's that important to that city.
That's the whole key, all around, on and off the field. I don't think there's a more important player in the NFL right now that's that important to the city, to the team on the field, and to the city off the field. I think he is just a wonderful individual,
Yeah,
and
I do
he
too.
plays hard. I mean, he gives it all. I mean, he's going to throw that body around, and he's got to again with all the money that's flying around. How can you plug in people to protect him, like the receivers, the running backs? It's a chess match every year, so it's going to be difficult for quarterback. I think to have any consistency, but
Yeah.
he's a good one. I mean, he coming right out of college. I mean, he was really something else.
Yeah, and he's, as you said, great off the field, great with child support for children, and just a great for the city in general. His face is everywhere in Buffalo.
Well, he built and raised money
Yes.
for a wing of the hospital for his mother, for his grandmother, I believe.
Hmm.
And he does a lot of work with the hospital. So he's a great kid who everybody wants on their team.
I
Would
agree.
be a kid like him.
I agree. I'd happily see him in black and gold. Believe me.
You should be so lucky.
Yeah, exactly. Um, College football wise, at this time of year, what are you looking at? What are you thinking about?
I'm interested. I think obviously the NIL and all these portals that are coming up, and there's a lot of schools that are canceling their spring game
Mm,
because they don't want scouts to come in and look at the talent that they have on the field who might want to leave their school and come to their school. So I find that very interesting. I know Notre Dame's going to have a spring game and they're going to go through it. I think it's a lot of you know people look to the spring game. It doesn't mean much. I mean, as far as the real thing is the scrimmage before the week before a spring game. It's a closed session. All schools have it, and that's one of these ones that are real head knockers, where these kids really go at it. In the spring game, it's sort of okay. We'll fluff around. They have a running clock. We're going to Notre Dame. I know has its tickets are $10 a piece, and it's all the money is given to the local charities.
It's a good deal.
And but it's fluff.
Yeah.
I went out. Marcus Freeman had a deal where every year now he started a deal where he invites back all the alumni to come back for Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and we're dinners and get-togethers and whatnot. And I went out last year and I was there Thursday night, Friday, and I left Saturday morning for the game. There was no need to watch that game because you don't see anything in the spring game. As far as if you want to look at talent, if you want to look at how good the team is, they're just trying to get the game over without any injuries and get into the start the regular season the day after the spring game.
One last thing from the NFL, I just saw via ESPN, Mac Jones has a 2-year deal with the 49ers. So I guess if they can settle things down with Brock Purdy, now they've got Mac Jones as a backup.
Well, I think it's interesting. I think Purdy, he's due for a big day now.
He is.
So that's when it all stops. When you're lucky enough to get a quarterback, in a draft, you get the rookie contract for three years. But if you're lucky enough to get a quarterback who's the last person taken in the draft, who's basically, you're not giving them, you're getting a plane fare to get there.
That's about it.
So you have money to spread around for everybody else. Now, when that comes due, and the quarterback's going to make his $200 million, now we got to take it away from them. We got to get rid of the linebacker. We got to get rid of the defensive back. We got to get rid of the running back so we can play the quarterback. Now we go back to the normal process that the rest of the NFL is into. So if you can get yourself a starting quarterback from the draft, you've got a real leg up on everybody.
Let us turn over to baseball, and you and I both follow the Yankees. I know you're a Pirates fan, but you do pay attention to the Yankees, root for them as well. Boy, they have had a rough week. You start with the thought of Giancarlo Stanton. How long is he going to be out? Reigning Rookie of the Year, Luis Gil, he's gone for several weeks. DJ LeMahieu, who knows when we'll see him again? And then, obviously, the most backbreaking news was the one that came down on Monday night, and that was Garrett Cole gone for the year with Tommy John surgery, which was performed on Tuesday. We won't see him until easily early 26, if not June or July of 26. It's devastating news.
And it'll be June or July
Yeah.
because he's long in the tooth.
Yep.
He's mid-30s, and I just feel sorry for Boone. I mean, this guy to me looks like a really, he's a baseball lifer. His father was a great baseball player.
Very good player. Yep.
I mean, these guys been around pro baseball for an awful long time, and he knows the ins and outs. And I think he's a great manager. I think he's really good. But every year now, they get these crazy injuries that that are devastating to the team. You saw Giancarlo Stanton. Well, he's hurt almost every year. He's going to miss X amount of games. And then with Garrett Cole, when that came out, I mean, that was when he pitched and he said he has soreness in his arm. And you start to wonder, well, is it just soreness? And the next day come out and, Tommy John surgery. And we know how long that takes. That's the whole year. And I don't know how the Yankees will recoup. I mean, they really, to me, after they passed on Soto, when Soto went to the Mets,
yeah,
I said, this is really great because the Yankees now, we know they have at least $700 million to spend on players because that's what they're going to give Giancarlo or Soto. And they went out and they bought a lot of good talent. I mean, they looked really good on paper coming out of, spreading that money around to several different people. But there you go. It's not going to happen.
No, it's not. And You got a general manager in Brian Cashman who's saying, well, the market's really not there right now to go get another pitcher, but I kind of feel like it is there. You make the phone calls, but who am I to say? I'm not a general manager. I have to trust Brian Cashman, I think.
Well, nobody's going to give up when they're starting pitching when it's in spring training.
Right.
I mean, they all think when the season starts, I got a shot. They all think that.
Sure.
And now, when they get a month or so into the season, they go, I don't got a shot. Maybe I could better get rid of this guy now and get a lot more for him. Maybe they go to Pittsburgh and look for Paul Skeen. See what they
Don't
couldn't
think
afford
don't
him now.
think
I
that
think.
thought didn't run through my mind, but that's
Well,
not
he
going to
will.
happen.
He's still on his rookie contract,
Right.
and he's going to look very good in pinstripes in a few years. And I hate to even say that because the owner of the Pirates has just been bleeding that team for years now.
Yeah.
And it's sad because Pittsburgh they have a great stadium, number one. They have a great farm system over in Puerto Rico.
Yeah,
I
they do.
mean, they teach these kids, how to speak English in case they do get drafted into they do the whole schooling. They do the whole, all from A to Z. And then they get these guys, they have great talent. They bring them over and all of a sudden they don't want to pay them. So
Yeah.
they send them out to wherever and pick up some money and they pick up some talent, some draft choices, and they keep the process going. And they collect all the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Dodgers when they start exceeding their limits, and the owners I think Pittsburgh gets like $50 million a year just people overpaying on players, and they can't stay under the salary cap.
No.
And guy puts a lot of money in his pocket every year, and it's sad because Pittsburgh deserves a much better baseball team.
Yes, they do. They absolutely do. And I'd actually like to see Skeens stay and have a long career there, but you know, uh, it's the terrible.
They got rid of Garrett Cole.
They did. They did. They've gotten rid of
I
everybody.
mean, they've had a lot of time. I forget who the other player when Cole was with Houston, and they were in the World Series. I forget the other pitcher's name, but they were starting pitchers for the World Series from both the American and National League were both former Pirates. I
Yep.
go, what's wrong with this picture here? We can't afford to keep anybody.
It,
We'll sign anybody who won't play for $1 million.
yeah. It's terrible.
And it is. I mean, the payroll is not there, and it'll never be there as long as this owner is there.
I agree. I completely agree. As for what the Yankees do, you gotta look at the market. You got to see if you can generate some more offense. Maybe there's still in my opinion, an unresolved third base situation or second base situation, however you want to phrase it. And then you got to rely on what is assembled in a pitching staff with Freed and Rodon, and then give Will Warren a shot at the back end of the rotation. See what you can do.
Yeah, and I mean, the third base is really still a challenge. They're not
Yes,
quite sure. LeMahieu, he's really good if he ever stays healthy again. There's another guy that can't stay healthy. And it's
yeah,
amazing to me, and always amazing to me how many baseball players get hurt all the time.
I know.
There's something wrong with them. Maybe sitting in that dugout too long between innings. They should be in there stretching and moving their body rather than sitting around. Or if they're in the outfield, they should be stretching every pitch that comes by. And I think they got to keep their body in motion because when you don't do anything for 2 or 3 innings, all of a sudden you have to burst for a ball, or if you hit the ball, got to
Yeah,
burst to go to first base. Those muscles, they're not quite, they tighten up on you. And, there's got to be something to their flexibility that they're not stressing that there's just too many injuries in baseball. And it's not a contact sport.
that's right. Last thing, college basketball. We're in the middle of the conference tournaments right now, getting ready for Selection Sunday. Did you see the end of Pitt and Notre Dame, by the way?
Oh, oh, oh. I
Yes, you
mean,
did.
obviously, I want my Irish to win every game, but that was the absolute worst call.
It was terrible.
It was, I mean, Notre Dame, they missed the shot. Then they tried to go for another one and badly missed that. Then they called a foul with zero point 0.5 seconds on the clock.
Terrible.
And I go, wait a minute. I mean, and they kept replaying it. Did the guy touch him? He touched him.
Yeah, he did.
Did he foul him?
No.
No. No, there wasn't a foul on that.
Nope.
And I felt so bad for the team. I mean, that one kid, the people are going to say he lost the game for him. He didn't
Yeah.
lose the game because he didn't really foul anybody.
No, that
So I
that
mean,
was a bad one.
yeah, I mean it was. There's been a few bad ones, but that was really. I mean, I can't. I feel sorry for Pitt. I really do because they
Yeah,
did not deserve. They deserved to go to overtime,
I agree.
and
I
that was it.
agree. But I would think by this time next week, maybe Dave will be back from his sojourn wherever he is now, and he can
Oh, you mean
rejoin
the
us.
place where they don't have any internet?
Yeah, I think that's where he still is,
And he
Aruba
could
or
never get
wherever.
on a Zoom call with us here.
I
I think
know.
he's really thrown us overboard.
I think he is actually back in the States, but we should see him next week, and hopefully we can get together and maybe we'll be talking some Final Four getting into the tournament.
Yeah, it's going to be they're going to. When did they announce? They announced this weekend
Should
or
be this
no?
Sunday,
Yeah,
far as
this
I know.
weekend,
Yeah,
Sunday night. Yeah,
yeah,
and
and
both my Notre Dame was never going to make the tournament, but they got crushed by North Carolina last night. Whoa,
yeah. Oof.
we beat it. They beat us by 1 point when we played them in the season, and they beat us by 20 in the tournament. Oh,
Oof. Well,
crazy.
we'll be into that. And to me, I love this time of year. Yes, I miss the NFL, but I love the college basketball. Temperatures getting warmer and right into baseball. It's a nice time of year.
And you have a lot of football in the air.
Yes, you do.
I mean,
Draft
that
is
is,
coming up.
and you got to love Roger Goodell because Rogers kept it put us in a position where you keep football in your mind for at least 11 months out of the year.
That's a fair
So
point.
that keeps the sport going.
All right, my friend, I think we're good for today.
Okay,
We will
we'll
talk to you.
say goodbye to Dave too. I'm sure he's going to be listening.
Oh, I'm sure he is. He's listening, so we'll wave to Dave, and he'll wave a finger back at us or something.
Just one, yeah.
And we'll see him next week, and we'll see you next week, Terry. That'll
Okay,
do it
Rob.
for this edition of Hanratty's Huddle. For Terry Hanratty, I'm Rob Adams. We'll see you next time.